Okay, I have 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. I want to thank everybody for taking time to participate again. There is a tremendous amount of information that continues to evolve on this front. Today we're going to have comments from the school, Dr. Rhodes, medical update with Dr. Dalrymple. We're going to hear from Jeremy Eshelman and Glenda Fraber with Two Rivers. Colton's going to give us an update on early childhood. We have a new participant today, Josh Hansen with the Department of Labor. Also new to the call today is Autumn Hill with the SNAP program. We're going to hear from Mayor Hudson, Sean Katsky with the University Extension, and then Senator Matt Williams. With that, we'll go ahead and begin with Dr. Rhodes giving us an update from what's going on from the school perspective. Dr. Rhodes.
Thanks, Nate. We did announce last night that we are extending our closure through Friday, May 1st. That decision was made with guidance from officials from Gothenburg Health, the Two Rivers Health Department, and then a recommendation from the Nebraska Department of Education Commissioner Matt Bloomstead. Now, having said that, that is a physical closure. We will continue to provide e-learning for our students, remote opportunities as we move forward through this closure. We did finish our first week this past week in terms of remote learning and opportunities for our students. The feedback that we've received so far has been extremely positive from both our teaching staff and correspondence we've received from parents. So we will certainly continue to provide a continuity of education within our students here at Gothenburg. The other thing that we finished this past week was our first week of our meal program. And an amazing number that I will provide for this group is that we served 2,400 meals approximately last week. And we saw our numbers increase from Monday through Friday. We anticipate that number could certainly go up. There is no deadline with signing up for those lunches, and we have the ability to feed any kids within our community 18 years of age and younger. They don't necessarily have to be school aged. And so the biggest change we made with our lunch program is we decided to have as many of those meals picked up here at school as opposed to delivering those across the community. We were looking out for the safety and health of our food and nutrition staff, and we wanted to make sure their interactions with people around the community were as limited as possible. So we do have some special arrangements where we are delivering some of those meals. That was the only way we could get those meals to those kiddos. But we did start today with the only place that meals can be picked up is here at the school, and it worked very, very well, very, very well. The last thing I would mention is our staff and faculty put together a parade last Thursday evening. We had 51 vehicles, and we had 2 of our school buses in that parade. When we think about the mental health, I think of our kids and our families, and quite honestly, our employees. It seemed to me to be very therapeutic for our folks that were involved in that parade, and then along the parade route to see kids, families, and to see retire-aged folks out smiling, waving as we went by. So it was just good outreach for us as a school district. We are continuing to plan those types of events as we move our way through this closure. We've got great minds in terms of our staff and faculty that are coming up with some really, really neat ideas for how we can be seen out in our community and really help with that therapeutic part of this whole pandemic. That's what I have, Nate.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Rhodes. And just saw Tom Shoemaker show up in my screen here. Tom, you guys have extended the offer to any of the students at Gothenburg. You want to just tell us about that? I know you guys stepped up and implemented that program several weeks ago, but you want to just remind everybody what's going on there?
Yep, I can, Nate, thanks. We did the extension of the 60-day free internet for students. We also have done that for the staff as well. We included that as a conversation. I mean, we're just really trying to help spur that along, and I appreciate Dr. Rhodes, your team, putting that all together. It looks like, looking at all the Facebook pages and everything, it looks like that's being very, very well utilized and very successful. So I'm excited to see those students learn in that manner. But yeah, we have the 60-day free internet that we're doing. We're doing some installs, you know, obviously as the virus spreads and as the health risk becomes greater, we try to mitigate our exposure to both our consumers as well as our staff on those installs. But we are still doing educational installs are a priority for us to keep those kids connected and getting them connected. So
Great.
you know, we're working our tails off to try and keep everybody going on that. But we're just proud to be a part of the community and proud to help the Gothenburg Public Schools in that situation. So
Great. Thanks, Tom. And Dr. Rhodes, I know I've fielded a few questions on the meal access program. I guess just to further clarify, there's really no stigma attached to families that choose to participate with that program. In fact, that's in one way just a gesture of appreciation for a lot of families that are sharing that educational responsibility with us right now. We've got we've knighted some teachers out there, the parents that are helping us get through the day-to-day instruction. And if families want to participate, that just have a little bit more normalcy for their kids, that food access program is available on the school website, correct?
Yes, the sign-up form is on the website. We do have a box outside of the east entrance doors to Gothenburg Public Schools that has those forms in it as well. This is totally subsidized by the federal government. It's part of what is normally the summer food program. So it's for each and every child within this community.
Just as a reminder, nothing changes with the social distancing. You know, we really want people still to follow that strictly, 6 feet apart, eliminate group meetings if at all possible at this point. Really nothing over 10 people, and if it can be done virtually like this or in another way, that would be ideal. Work from home if that's possible, and still continue to wash your hands at least 20 seconds and clean those high traffic areas. So just a couple other things I wanted to bring up. With the increased testing that we're seeing, we are noticing we're having more people that are being put into self-isolation if they're actually having symptoms, which means that they stay separate from all individuals. They really should be staying at home if at all possible, but if they're going out into the community, they wear a mask and restrict having visitors. This is a really hard thing for anyone who actually is in isolation, as well as their family and the community. So I just, myself as well as the hospital, we want to make sure that we're trying to take care of ourselves and those around us. So it can be really hard, again, physically or emotionally. So if you know someone who is in quarantine, you know, I just recommend trying to reach out to them. Maybe you can bring them some groceries and leave them at their door. That would help them. And kind of fostering that sense of community right now, because this is hard to deal with. So thinking about how we can face this responsibly, you know, and support each other. With that, I also just want to remind people to stay calm. I think, I don't know about you guys, but when I watch the news, even knowing what I know, it makes me feel anxious. So I don't think that's really helping anybody. I'm glad that we have these meetings to disseminate credible information. And I think that's empowering for our community to know where we're getting our information from. So right now, it's important to continue our social distancing, continuing to try to flatten that curve, and to really support each other through this, and knowing that we're doing a good job. Don't know if I have anything else right now, but I'm happy to help with questions as we go.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate that. Anna, did you have any thoughts on bullying or, I know as a parent of four, bullying can kind of be a big deal, and that's one of the things that we spent some time talking about at the school. Any thoughts on bullying or how that could pertain to mental health or situations like this?
Yeah, well, sure. So first of all, just like anyone else, I think that's not something we need to tolerate in any way, shape, or form. So if there's any concern about that, depending on what the situation is, going to the proper person, whether, it's a community-based thing or somehow related to, at home. I think if there's a mental health concern there, because there definitely can be related to bullying, reaching out to us if we need to help in that sense. There's just no room for that with this. We all are being affected by this pandemic, whether it's being home self-isolated or someone or just that you heard this, or the fact that your own supply at the store has been affected. We're all being affected. So there's no room for it, and it absolutely can cause mental health issues. So that's kind of where I think saying let's be supportive and help each other out to try to minimize that, I think, is key. So,
And even as we have more positive tests within our community, or we're all at some point in time likely to know somebody who is identified as having COVID. There's really a level of expectation on how we should treat each other that I think if you look at national news and other places, there's been threats of people that were identified somehow or another. That information's gotten out, and people have made threats on people that had contracted the virus, really through no fault of their own or no intentions of their own. But I think, as Anna said, to continue to help support each other and try to see what we can do to help each other out through these tough times. So thank you for your comments, Anna. With that, we have Jeremy Eshelman and Glenda Fravor with Two Rivers Health that have joined us today, if they're available.
I'm seeing Glenda in the meeting. It does not appear that she's got a microphone. So if Glenda, if you're on the line, could you please write a message in the chat so I can identify you as a user? Or Jeremy, the same story.
As we're potentially working through that, I think let's go ahead and just transition to Colton. Colton's going to give us an update on early childhood issues here in Gothenburg.
Thanks, Nate. All right, so we go into week 2 basically of our early childhood centers here in town being closed. Those are our 2 biggest providers here in town, and so from an early childhood perspective and the Learning Coalition's perspective, what we're trying to do is coordinate with families and with providers for particular subsets of our population. And that revolves around Title 20 kids, so folks that qualify based on income for state reimbursement, and also for frontline medical staff. So again, a big shout out goes out to the YMCA for their contribution to assist and work with the hospital on providing child care for those frontline or the children of those frontline medical staff. I'm told that they had 28 kids today, and with the extension of the school's closure, we expect that to increase. So not only a big shout out to the YMCA, but also to the hospital. Gothenburg Health has been very supportive of that program and continues to assist the YMCA in being able to provide those services. Second piece that we're trying to do is coordinate with providers. Obviously, much like many businesses that have had to shut down operations, there is a lot of concern for the going concern of that business and also for their employees. So we're trying to provide resources to those folks and doing our best to support them. The final piece that we're implementing through GECLC is we're conducting a community-wide survey to try to identify, whether it's our families or our businesses, where you have the biggest need right now. Gothenburg's lucky in that we have some outside supporters who have reached out to us and have said, Identify those biggest areas of concern, and we will provide you some support, whether that's through resources or manpower. So that's a big thanks to Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, and GECLC will coordinate with that. Nicole Hetz is going to be sharing, I believe, the link to that survey here shortly. Otherwise, we will get it back up through social media and on the GECLC website. So I would encourage folks to go out and fill that survey out so we can identify our biggest needs here within the community. Thanks, Nate.
Awesome. Thank you, Colton. Really appreciate it. And then I think we've got our technical issues now figured out with Glenda. So Glenda, if you're available to join us. Can you speak up just a little bit? I'm having a tough time picking you up.
Can you hear me now?
That's better than it was.
Okay. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we recently just entered into an MOU with the city, and we appreciate your partnership and working with us and collaborating. So that should make things go smoothly as we go down the road. I'm kind of glad I came on after the hospital because the hospital gave you a lot of the most recent updates. We continue to stay on top of any positive case reports that we get. And then what we do is do a full case investigation to determine who those people may have been in contact with, and then to contact those people to make sure that we're securing people in their homes to isolate for those 14 days if they have been exposed. So that's how we're spending a lot of our time right now, is just making sure that the people that have been exposed that we're aware of are informed about it and giving them information to stay at home and how that will fall out for them.
Great. Thank you, Glenda.
You're welcome.
Glenda, could you either you or Anna talk to us just a little bit about the difference between a positive test and a clinical diagnosis, and maybe how that's handled either at a local level or by Two Rivers?
Okay, so I'm going to let Anna tell you about the difference between those and maybe expand on it. But by Two Rivers, how we handle that is we're not always aware of them. Not all the providers report that to us. So in our total numbers that we report out, that does not include the clinical diagnosis because we don't know about all of those. But I'm going to let Anna expand on how that, the definitions and how that works.
Yeah, so a clinical diagnosis is, especially last week, before we received these new guidelines on expanding criteria for testing, a lot of our, we were really supposed to basically tell people, if you have these symptoms, we are going to have you assume that you have the disease, to have coronavirus. Without testing, because we had such limited testing. So a clinical diagnosis, would be most likely related to cough, fever, shortness of breath, and especially if there's any related, exposure to a known person who does have a positive test, or, before, even the last week or so, we talked about, concerning travel. At this point, travel is less of an issue because it's so prevalent. But so a clinical diagnosis is really saying you have it based on these symptoms, but we don't have a positive test. Whereas actually having a positive test is when you've been swabbed. And those, as we were saying, as Glenda was saying, related, that's going to go to the public health. And we're trying to monitor our own clinical diagnoses. We have those recorded, and I do think that there is a way that we're working on making sure that that is known as well to the Department of Health, which people have clinical diagnoses at this time.
Yep. I guess just to paraphrase that, to the general public at Gothenburg, we probably actually have more positive instances of COVID within our community than the one that's been tested for. and we probably need to be acting as if more people in the community have been positively impacted by or have a positive test of the virus. And a lot of those best practices we just need to continue to adhere to: social distancing, washing hands, trying to maintain as much isolation as we can. So yeah, thank you, appreciate that. And then Anna, another question that has come in was just speaking to the availability of healthcare within Gothenburg. Would you be able to talk about what some of our capacity issues may be?
Yeah, so right now, I don't think we have a capacity issue at this time. We, like I had talked about, are still seeing patients in clinic, and we still take care of patients on the hospital side. Other things still happen even during this. If someone needs to be hospitalized for any other reason, we still have that capacity. You hear about throughout both in places like Italy and worldwide, as well as in certain places in the United States, about what they're calling a surge of cases. And that, of course, is our concern, is if we were to have a surge of cases that would need to be hospitalized. So we do have some, we've definitely been talking about this in terms of, what happens if we fill all the beds in our hospital, and we have plans in place for where we would put other people. And also, we've talked about, because we do transfer patients out of our facility, we've talked about what would happen if we couldn't do that. So we definitely have plans in place in terms of where we can get creative. So
great, thank you, and thank you for the whole team that's been thinking ahead on if we ever get to that point. I think we started a lot of these meetings with the message: we will never know if we have over-prepared, but it will become rapidly apparent if we've under-prepared. And as a community, I'm extremely proud of Gothenburg and how we've tried to take as many steps as we can to be prepared for all the issues that we certainly are facing. With that, I want to transition to Josh Hansen. Josh is with the North Platte office of the Department of Labor, and there has certainly been some changes and updates as it would pertain to the Department of Labor and unemployment. So Josh, if you could walk us through an update on what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So the first thing that I just want to say is that all of our field offices are still open, or going to remain open for the foreseeable future to assist with walk-in traffics. So, that for our region, that's considering the North Platte office and our Lexington office, it's open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So all of our offices will still be open, and we will be taking walk-in traffic. The biggest thing that we just want to advertise is if individuals do have the ability to file their unemployment claim from home, they have computer and they have internet, and we're highly encouraging to do so, because we are limiting it to only 8 job seekers in the office at once in order to protect the community and our staff members. If they have that ability and they've never filed unemployment before and they have questions, please feel free to guide them and give them our local office numbers. And we've created step-by-step guidance on how to register for AnyWorks, and then how to successfully file their initial claim, and the requirements for them until they enter full-time employment, which is filing their weekly claim for benefits. And that goes for the employers as well too. I know there's a lot of employers out there that have never practiced layoffs before, and they will have to have an AnyWorks registration in order to verify their employees and give that justification that they were laying off due to COVID-19 on there. We have step-by-step guidance as well. I emailed all of those resources to Deb to share freely with anybody. But if it's something else that you do require, please get in contact with our office, and we'll make sure that we jot down your email and phone numbers, and we can get that information to you. This is the first time our field offices have ever actually dealt with the unemployment side of helping people file their initial claims for them. Everyone in our office does have a lot of strong knowledge with the unemployment process, but unemployment was initially a call center in Lincoln. Obviously, due to the about 16,000 unemployment claims we've received since March 21st, all the local field offices are taking callbacks and are on live chat as well too, to help individuals guide them through their claims and answer any questions that they have through the unemployment process. For the employer side of things, there's 2 ways that you can go about to assist you in making sure that your employees are still getting paid. If you're operating your business still and you just did a reduction in hours, then we would advise you guys to visit our dol.nebraska.gov website and look into filing for the short-term or short-time compensation. So that's something that you guys can file for as employers, for your employees, if you a reduction in hours, so that you can still get some benefits from the state government to assist them in making up for some of that lack of work and the reduction in hours. If you're a company that's going to do a full layoff and for the company you're going to close your doors for the remaining time of this pandemic, then please give us a call so that we're aware, we're keeping track of all employers that are practicing mass layoffs at this time. And then that's where we would want your employees to actually file for unemployment. Some of the important things to remember if you do that layoff and have your employees file unemployment, you want to give them a rough estimate of a return date, no more than 112 days, so that they can be job attached and they don't have to have that availability or job searching issue. As of right now, per the governor's executive order, everyone is waived from that job search and availability, but if it goes beyond a recall date that you gave them, then those requirements may change. We're just kind of playing it month by month right now with the waiving of certain requirements. As of right now, anyone who's filed from March 22nd and then to May 2nd are waived of job search requirements, availability, and a waiting week. So all they need to do is file their claim and then continue to file a weekly claim until they return to work full time. But the biggest thing is notifying unemployment through your AnyWorks or faxing them that you are laying off due to the COVID-19 virus. Doing that and having your employees select that during their initial claim will ensure that the payments from that is going to come from the state trust rather than your unemployment insurance tax funds. So that's very important that if you are doing a reduction in force or reduction in hours or a layoff, that you guys and gals annotate that it is due to COVID-19, so it's coming from the state trust and not your unemployment insurance tax fund. And like I said, I posted the dol.nebraska website on there as well, and I submitted all the resources that are step-by-step guidance for both employers and job seekers of what your responsibilities are, so that you can make sure that your employees are still receiving some financial assistance during this time right now. But like I said, you guys are more than welcome to call our office with any questions. We'll jot down your email and send you as much as we possibly can. Like I said, every office in the state of Nebraska is working on these live chats and callbacks in order to reduce the wait time. Currently in Lincoln, it's about a 2-hour wait time to get a hold of an unemployment adjudicator. The only thing we're not doing is actually adjudicating and approving unemployment claims. We are not able to do that. That has to be done by an unemployment adjudicator down in Lincoln, but we are available to answer any questions or guide people through the system. We've even had individuals that called that do not have access to computer and internet, and we've gotten their blessing pretty much to actually file the claim on their behalf. We only do that with certain circumstances where they don't feel comfortable with coming in the office and they absolutely have no access to computer or internet. Then we'll go ahead and keep them on the phone or online and file that claim with them and walk them through the process.
Great. Thank you, Josh. And I think that's just a good reminder. There is really no cookie cutter solution. Every individual, every employer, they may have a unique set of circumstances that just gives them a different outcome than what their neighbor or peer experiences. I think that's the same in the medical community, in the business community, at the school. I think everything we're talking about today is going to be predicated on the fact that you need to take time to educate yourself on the different opportunities that exist and figure out what really is a good solution for you. I'm glad we have so many resources together today to try to give some direction to the community of who they need to talk to get those answers to find the right solution for themselves. With that, I want to transition to Autumn Hill. Autumn is with the SNAP program, or what I would have referred to as the food stamps program, but it's my understanding that's an outdated term. So Autumn, could you update us on the food or on the SNAP program?
Yeah, I technically work on the SNAP Next Step program, which is an employment program that we've partnered with the Department of Labor for to assist individuals in finding full-time employment through going back to school, job searching. We can help build resumes as well as doing some on-the-job training. However, during this pandemic, we have kind of stopped progress on the program because we don't want our participants out job searching and being out in the communities. So we have transitioned to strictly processing the SNAP applications. Kind of what they're recommending, people can apply online or over the phone. Local offices do remain open to apply in person. However, to limit that foot traffic, if available to, we ask that everyone applies online or over the phone. And I have phone number and the website as well. If anybody wants that information, reach out to myself or Josh can get everybody in contact with me as well. To make things go faster, having pay stubs or employer forms available is always helpful. Employers laying employees off, you know, having a letter that states their layoff date, the date they're going to receive their final check, and the possibility of the gross amount on that check will make it faster for those individuals who are filing for the SNAP benefits, just to kind of speed things along for them.
Great, Autumn. If I could ask, if you could post any of those in the comments section, any of those resources or links to resources similar to what Josh did, and then we'll also email any of those updates around through the chamber newsletter update also. That's just a good reminder for anybody that's not currently on the email update. Please email Deb Eggenberger. She will get you on the COVID update list. She's sending daily updates, and the content for those updates is really coming from the participants on this call and participants from past calls. With that, I'm gonna transition to our I wanted to call you the governor. You're not the governor, but you're equally as special, if not more special in my mind, Mayor Joyce Hudson with an update from the city.
Hi, Nate. I don't think there's much change in the city. The crews are out working as normal, as best we can. Obviously, the city offices are still locked to the public. Lafayette camping is closed. Right now, we have closed it till the 15th. That probably will be extended. I know we've had some local families inquire about running up there and camping and letting their kids run. That is a no. We have roped off the playground equipment in all the parks. We really discourage children playing from that due to the passing of germs from there. But with that said, we have acres and acres up there at Lake Helen that is available for family time. I was up by there this weekend on a walk, and it was amazing to see how many people up there. Distancing was still being done, but there was people scattered all around the lake, a lot of people walking. It was really good to see. So if you need to get out and get some sunshine, Lake Helen's a great place, and the weather's supposed to be better here after today. I guess the only other thing I would say is I know it's kind of hard to be positive, and I think it's as Dr. Dalrymple said, we need to be calm. We have all survived this first 2 weeks of a change in our lifestyle. We can survive another 2 or 4, whatever it takes to continue to be a strong community.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Hudson. Now we're gonna talk just a little bit about some updates from a business perspective. Thanks everybody for the messages, whether it's on my cell phone or actually on the chat part of this, complimenting the background. The blue skies ahead is intentionally optimistic. It's fun to look at the weather and see that we hopefully will have a nicer day tomorrow, a good opportunity to get out and about, practice some social distancing, but have some time out and about. Some things that have happened locally within the last week. Deb put together a great promotion for Takeout Tuesdays. I think it's an awesome example of local businesses modifying, and then the rest of us as a community, what can we do to help support our local businesses? So just as a reminder, if you're able to, please support some of our local restaurants, food service. That's a very, very challenging industry right now with social distancing. If we can support them with takeout, I think that would be great. Just a recap a little bit from last week's call. We had an update from several volunteer groups The backpack program is still continuing to accept donations. The Meals on Wheels program would most certainly take donations and volunteerism. I was made aware the senior center is in the habit of doing a monthly fundraiser lunch. And part of me thought that was, just fairly social. For anybody that's been, they know it's a good time. But what I underestimated was how significant that is for their fundraising. So they're getting creative on fundraising, and they're selling cinnamon rolls. And I'm sure they're going to be coming up with other things like pretzels, as they've always done. Also great opportunities for all of us to try to help support some of those local businesses and work on our volunteerism at the same time too. Other things on the business front, last week, phase 3 we talked about, but it was actually passed into law on Friday afternoon. The stimulus package that was passed from a federal perspective, a lot of the details are still being worked out, but some of the highlights that I think will impact our local community members, I think most notably, every individual is eligible to receive a $1,200 stimulus payment if their income individually is less than $75,000 or a married couple is less than $150,000. And then in addition to that, for each dependent they have that is 16 or younger, they're eligible to receive an additional $500. So for a family of 4, mom and dad and 2 kids that are under 16, mom and dad, $1,200 a piece, that's $2,400 plus each child, another $1,000. So up to $3,400 if they meet those eligibility for income requirements. That's going to be a significant program for many, many of our residents and help likely bridge a gap that they could be experiencing. Those distributions from the federal government are anticipated to be mid-April. So stay tuned, more developments there. For the businesses that are on the call, there's a significant amount of different business tools that have been refined or updated. Probably one of the most notable is a new program, the Paycheck Protection Program. This is done in conjunction with the SBA. What's unique about this SBA loan is it needs to be facilitated by a bank. I'm very proud of both local banks here in Gothenburg. They both are approved 7A SBA loans, eligible banks. That's the type of bank you need to go to work through the PPP program. More details to come, but from the information that's currently available, that could have a significant impact on many of the employers within our community. Also, there is a small business debt relief program, an economic injury and disaster loan fund, an emergency economic injury grant, and small business consulting. Please talk to the financial professionals that are in your life. They are working on getting the most current information, and they are in a position to really help facilitate you accessing any of these programs that could apply to your individual business. Have a conversation with those financial professionals that are in your life. I think you could potentially benefit fairly significantly from taking the time to educate yourself about those programs. So with that, I'm going to transition to Sean Caskey, who is with us as a UNL Extension educator. And I noticed your background too, Sean. I'm guessing you're not outstanding in a cornfield somewhere. So I'll compliment you on the blue skies in your background as well.
Yeah, that's can everybody hear me okay? That is on my way up on 183, not too far from you guys, to Broken Bow, on my commute from my regular commute. It was interesting rain you can see in the background that day, similar background. Thank you for having me today. For those of you that don't know me, Nate had asked me to come and talk about some of the university's resources related to the COVID-19 incident. One, I'd like to say it's sort of an extension from the flooding last year. Extension has a disaster education network where you can easily find some of the mental health resources that are both applicable to a weather disaster as well as this sort of medical disaster that we're facing. The next one, of course, any of you hopefully have some kids in 4-H, but they've got a really interesting 4-H living room learning video series that's every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon with interactive ideas. Kids can do it with other kids. You might sort of check out that website there. Those things are posted in the chat. The Innovation Campus at UNL has a business accelerator called NMotion. And they have a program that I think starts next week. You have to sign, it's free, but you have to sign up. The website there, it's called Generator. It's focused on entrepreneurs and started small businesses. And it is free, and I would recommend sort of checking that out. Some useful things. They'll go over many of the programs that Nate had mentioned, plus other sort of strategy type things that would be useful. In addition to that, the Nebraska Business Development Center, who has offices in North Platte and in Kearney, but are virtually available, they have a whole page related to business resiliency, and that's pasted there under NBDC and then business resiliency if you're interested. And so, again, I'm Sean Caskey. I'm an extension educator and community development serving Central Nebraska, and please reach out with any questions.
Thanks, Sean. We certainly appreciate your support to our community in normal times, but especially in times like this. It looks like we are probably going to have some time for questions. If anybody has any questions they would like to type in the queue, please go ahead and do so now. With that, I would like to introduce Matt Williams, our state legislative representative. Senator Williams.
Well, thank you, Nate. It's always a pleasure to be on this, and I'm always humbled by the work and effort that is going into the challenges that are being faced. When you think of the challenges that the school is facing with going from learning in the classroom to online learning basically overnight, the stress that puts on students and also on faculty that are doing that. Also at the hospital and Dr. Dalrymple and all the staff up there that are putting themselves in harm's way to protect the rest of us. But I've had the opportunity this last week to work with many of the department heads in Lincoln, from the Department of Education, Department of Labor, Department of Economic Development, Revenue, Banking, Insurance, and HHS. And I will tell you, everybody is full steam ahead with working as hard as they can. We clearly have the health issues that we're dealing with, and most, if not all, of the state stimulus package is directed, that we passed last week, the $83.6 million of state funding is directed at the health issues. 38 million of that goes to ensuring that the personal protective equipment is obtained and delivered to all across the state to our hospitals and medical providers. Also, a lot of it goes to our veterans homes, our nursing homes, our care facilities that are out there to help them through this period of time. And a significant part goes to research and development for the testing that is necessary and the development longer term of vaccines and tests that will help determine immunities and those kind of things. Dr. Dalrymple mentioned telehealth. I was very active last week, spent nearly 2 full days on the issue of telehealth. That's something we haven't thought of a lot, but all of a sudden we have healthcare providers that don't want patients coming in to their facility necessarily, and we have patients that don't want to expose themselves also. So the answer is telehealth. The problem we had is that many of our private insurance companies were not providing coverage for telehealth. And if they were providing coverage, it was not at a parity level for a cost sharing to the provider at the same level as an in-office visit. Through a lot of work by a number of people, we were able to get that changed last week, and most of the providers, led by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska, very proud of them in this case, have stepped up and are offering telehealth coverage for everyone on parity with an in-office visit. That is a huge economic factor for the insurance side, but also for our providers. On the other side, in addition to the health issues that we've talked about, we have the economic impact that is happening. And Nate talked a lot about that with the federal stimulus program that's coming, the portion that is designed for individuals, the $1,200 that is for a single and the $2,400 for a married couple, all those things, but also the significant benefits of the federal package for our businesses. And as Nate mentioned, and I will just say this again, we're very fortunate in Gothenburg to have 2 locally owned banks that are very involved with our community, supporting our community, and will be involved with our business community. The Paycheck Protection Program is like nothing else that anybody has ever seen before. And we have many businesses and many that may be on this call that are not directly affected, but they are indirectly affected by the downturn in the economy and what they do with staff that they have. And this is a program that allows many businesses to maintain their staff and find a way through the SBA program to help supplement the cost of that staff. So we're really looking forward to seeing that. I'm always impressed with what we have termed the Gothenburg way, with a community that supports each other. Our churches, as you know, many of our churches are now offering online worship opportunities on Sunday, and I think we have to applaud them. The bottom line is there's stress on everybody, and this we are clearly flattening the curve, but that does not mean that we're not going to have a continuation of these economic impacts and these health impacts for some period of time. I think, as everyone knows, the original 15-day program that was announced by the president has hit the end of that period, and that's now been extended through the end of April. So we're in this for a longer period of time. And I'm always reminded of that famous philosopher, that little green person that was in the Star Wars movie, Yoda, that said, there's only do or do not. There is no try. And we don't try in Gothenburg, we do it. And I'm proud of our community. I'm proud to represent you in the legislature. Thank you, Nate.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate all your work on all of our behalf in Lincoln. So with that, we do have a couple questions in queue. Anna, I think we may have touched on this one a little bit earlier in the conversation, but for anybody that may be late to join the conversation, do you mind just touching on maybe a clinical diagnosis and versus an actual tested one?
Yes. So again, so clinical diagnosis meaning you have symptoms that are consistent with coronavirus and or significant exposure, whether through somebody who has been tested or travel to a higher risk area, or really kind of any travel at this point, is considered potentially significant. And so, we're starting to be able to test more now, but really that was how we have been trying to diagnose people, is with a clinical diagnosis without a test, because we just haven't had access to enough testing. And so, and I do see the question about, if how do we know if there is community spread, or to what extent that is happening? I think that's a great question. Without more testing, we don't. So that is why doing the social distancing and taking this seriously right now is really important, because in all likelihood there is more out there than we know because of that.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you. Then had another question about student loan indebtedness and forgiveness. Lynette, I remember reading about that, but I don't remember the details. If for anybody that doesn't know, Nate Wyatt, Investment Service Center, Flatwater Bank, Lynette, shoot me an email, call the office. Be glad to look that up. I know we have access to that information. It seems like there may be a 6-month forbearance, but I don't remember the details for sure, but I know where we can find the answer. So let me know, and we'll circle up with you one-on-one on that question. Another comment that came through, more so than a question, was just a compliment to the school system. It's been amazing to see the amount of learning that's continued to happen away from the roof line of the school. I've been a school board member for many, many years. Something I say frequently when talking to the people at the school. We've got a nice building, but what makes the school is the people, and it absolutely is. No more time is that ever true than today. We are functioning as a school without the luxury of a school building to operate in. It is truly amazing what's happening, not only at the school system, at the hospital, at the city, in the business community. People are consistently pulling together. It's really been fun to see. With that, I'll share a quick story talking about social distancing. Last night, my family was challenged by Dr. Ryan O'Hare and his wife Becky to do a roadside cleanup. Their family went out on a Sunday afternoon, a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and cleaned up a mile of trash. They challenged us to do the same and another family to do the same. We've accepted the challenge. We didn't get the challenge until after dark last night, so it was too late to do it last night. I'm not sure I'm looking forward to the forecast tonight. We may put off that commitment until tomorrow when it's forecasted to be better. But once we do that, we're going to be challenging a couple other families to clean up a mile of trash. And I think that's just a fun example of how we can all continue to find the good and look for opportunities to make the best of this time. I know many, many families are probably looking for ways to get outside of their house and do something productive. That's very important from all of ours mental health. And I think at the end of the day, all of us are called to be part of something bigger and better and to try to help others. Try to come up with creative ways to help your neighbor, to help the community, and we're all going to get through this together. Just looking, anything else in the queue? I think any of the questions that were in the queue are being answered. With that, we're going to go ahead and stop the presentation portion of the meeting, but we're not going to close the meeting. We're going to give everybody a chance to review the comments if you need to. So we're going to stop the presentation piece of it, but we're going to leave the group chat portion open for a few minutes so everybody could review that. Thanks everybody for all you're doing. Continue to try to see the good and try to help each other out. Thanks, Gothenburg.